Yeah, and I got another question about that that's gonna come later. But
Yeah.
while you were here, out of the 5 years you were here, if you can remember, what are some of the most memorable stories that you've covered and why? Which ones just
Uh,
think in your head that just kind of,
I knew you were going to ask me that.
I had to ask you that.
I knew you were going to ask me that, and I didn't. Oh, man. So I'm sure there are some high profile things that I'm going to think back on and say, why didn't I say that?
Right.
But there's a couple of things that stand out to me. One was the first time that I really felt like I made a difference. And that was this little old couple that was living in public housing, and they had a hole in their ceiling. And this woman was blind. And I don't remember if he was her husband or just her life partner, but either way, her husband was trying to take care of them in this public housing, and she's blind, and they couldn't get anybody to come fix it. And they called the station, finally frustrated. And it was Thanksgiving. And I was so hurt that I was working on Thanksgiving, like hurt that I was away from my family. And I went out on Thanksgiving and I met this couple in their house, this woman who was blind. They didn't have any money to fix it themselves, nobody helping them. And by the next day, they were moved out of that unit and into a better, bigger unit. And that night, after the story was over, and this wasn't part of the story, I went with the operations manager from my station, and we went to the grocery store, and we loaded up a cart with groceries for them for a proper Thanksgiving and for food for them for the next week. And he paid for it out of his own pocket, because I wasn't making anything at that point, but he paid for it out of his own pocket. And we went back over there after the news and delivered them all of those groceries and all of that food. So that was the one thing that we felt like we could do. And then the next day, they got a new place.
Okay.
And I realized at that point the power that we had, that we could elevate somebody else's cries and demands, and it was the right thing. They shouldn't have been living in a house that was literally dripping water on them, and nobody had done anything to help them for months. They lived like that, and I could make one phone call, do one story, and change their whole living situation.
Right.
And it also put everything into perspective for me on Thanksgiving and what was really important. So I was over here crying my crocodile tears because I wasn't with my family, when this family didn't have anything in their fridge, had a hole in their house, and I could make a difference instantly in their lives. And so that probably wasn't the biggest story I ever did. Covered lots of things that were bigger and more important. Like I remember there was an outdoor party. Somebody was on like a back deck. The deck collapsed. A bunch of people got injured.
A club on Brannon Road. The club on Brannon Road. Yeah.
Yep.
I remember that.
So, I mean, yeah, that was a big story. That was on CNN. And I remember somebody out there, I can't remember who it was, but somebody was like, oh, you think you're going to get on by covering this? You think that you're going to get your big break? I was like, I'm not here for my big break. So I've been here. So, but anyway. But anyway, so there were bigger stories that happened while I was there, sure. I can't remember the woman's name, but there was the woman who was accused of like touching little kids. And she had this whole big trial and everything else, and it went on for a long time. So I remember some like high profile stories, but the ones that stick out to me the most are the ones where I really felt like I made an impact, like where I could change somebody's life. And that's the thing that keeps me going in this now. I don't get excited about the flashing lights. I don't like to chase the ambulances. I don't get off on the adrenaline. Right. I want to make a difference for people. And when I get that makes everything else worth it.